I'm gonna put your mic on for you. Oh, you got it? Okay, you got it. Moon, wait. Okay.
So where do you, should I look over towards there? Um, Look wherever you want.
Wait.
Yeah,
Because
put
this
this
is
one
the
over
Zoom
here.
call.
Put this one over here.
If you put it over here, you can't see y'all. This is
Oh,
the
you know, yeah,
Zoom.
let me move this way. Let me see this,
This is the Zoom right here. So y'all need to be in front of this camera.
well, she got it on there too. So we're good. We're covered.
Can she see y'all over there?
I see
I
the
think
camera.
I'm kind of blocked, aren't I?
From this
No, see,
camera
no,
or that camera?
that camera right there.
See? No, it's this one. That one
Oh.
does. That's why we use this one because that one.
Oh, okay. So you can go back. Okay, gotcha. Oh, you're tied in. My bad.
Yes.
Okay, so see, okay, y'all had it all together anyway. So he's on number one. He's on number one. I'm on number four. All right. On your pencil paper. 3 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to go to the bathroom, but I saw it was locked.
Oh, here's the key right here. Here you go.
And I want to just say thank you so much, Alan Minsky, and I'm Susan Weisman. Remember, support the station and call in your pledge, 818-985-5735 or kpfk.org. Thanks so much. And that's our show for today. I'd like to thank my guests, Mark Cooper and Robert Brenner. Thanks also to executive producer Robert Brenner, producer Melissa Figueroa, editor-engineer Juliana Gota, and Gary Baca in Master Control. You can listen to this and other archive shows as well as subscribe to the podcast at kpfk.org. All the archives, it's from them to Beneath the Surface with Susie Weisman.
Okay. When you come back, you gotta take the other one off of him.
Guests are on our Facebook page. That's Beneath the Surface with Susie Weisman. And you've been listening to Beneath the Surface on KPFK, Pacifica Radio for all of Southern California and beyond. Streaming live and archived at kpfk.org. Thanks for listening, and please call 985-5735 to pledge your support and keep this program and radio station on the air. Stay tuned. I'm Susie Weisman.
How long is it coming?
818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. Press option 2 for the pledge line. Look at the call center. Or go to the website, kpfk.org.
You said I don't need the mic.
For the station. It's just we need your support. You need us. We understand that this program is value to you. This reflects values that you share. And if you
Thank you.
appreciate those things, put your money where it is.
We're good. We got they got us covered. Like Brad or Bradley?
Brad is fine, I guess.
Uh,
Either works. Either one works. It could be, I guess, Bradley from Brad Gage Law is fine.
Hi, this is Halle Berry, and you're listening to KPFK 90.7 FM.
Yeah, leave it in the background. This is KPFK Los Angeles, as said. My name is Sylvester Rivers, aka Sly Rivers. A great show today. Yes, in the studio next to me, we have Bradley Gage. He's an attorney. He's dealt with different cases and has some great statistics he's going to play for us. So don't turn that dial. Stay tuned.
The radio station received an anonymous call stating, in effect, that the
We're going to go to that later on. That's just a part of the, what was it say, a present we have for you. What happened to KPFK. And Brad's going to comment on that too. So let's just jump right into it. Before we start though, Brad, we are in Fund Drive, so this is a listener-sponsored radio station. The only way we could do what we could do is if we get people to donate, because we know large corporations are taking over the media. Actually, they've taken it over. And so that's why we get one viewpoint. We don't get alternative viewpoints. So the beauty of Pacifica Radio is that it has multiple viewpoints. But anyway, welcome, Brad. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you for having me here, Sly.
No problem. I heard you talking, and I said, our audience needs to hear about this. You were talking about, let's start with what I heard you talking about. You're an attorney. You were dealing with some cases along with the Beverly Hills Police.
I'm handling 1,086 African Americans who were arrested by Beverly Hills Police Department during a 2-year time frame of August 2019 through 2021. And although they all got arrested, none of them were convicted. In fact, during that time frame, only 2 convictions out of 1,088 people. And that's just shocking. The only way you could do that is the arrests weren't good, but they had an ulterior motive. And we know that ulterior motive was they wanted to eliminate black visitors and residents from that city.
So 1,000.
1,088 arrests, 1,086 not convicted or pleading to any plea deal.
So people always try to debate the notion of profiling. So this basically cuts it in half. It just
That's our class action, is one of racial profiling. You know, I just filed a second lawsuit for more recent timeframes going through 2024. I'm handling that with Ben Crump as well. And it's the same thing where when you look at people that are stopped in Beverly Hills that are African American versus the rest of the state of California, or the population in the city of Beverly Hills of black residents, you see it's so disproportionate, it can only be racial profiling and targeting of African Americans, which is totally wrong.
talk about that ratio if you can.
Well, when you consider, first of all, they had a task force for Rodeo Drive, and that task force had over 92% of the people that were arrested were black. The city is 1.5% black according to the census. So pretty much any person they saw that was black seems like they got arrested. They certainly got stopped.
Including Oprah.
Including people that, like Charles Belk, who was an Emmy winner, and Salehi Bembry, who was vice president of Versace sales, stopped right outside of Versace because he looked suspicious carrying a Versace bag. You have, the list goes on and on. We have police officers, 2 from LAPD that were in Beverly Hills on business, both in police cars, 1 in uniform. They both got stopped. The other one was in a suit. One of them had a gun pulled on him, and it was simply because they were driving while black in Beverly Hills.
So you showed me something that sort of irked me. You showed me a picture. You want to describe what you showed me?
Yes, what we have is a picture that was taken by a woman who was going on tour at the shooting range of Beverly Hills. And they showed her the targets. Well, most of them were normal police targets, but one of them in the corner was a picture of a black man holding a gun. No targets with white men holding guns or Asian or Latino, only black. And this was at a time when they were clearly racially profiling. Well, in Beverly Hills, that's all the time. But
So you think that's just Beverly Hills? I mean, throughout the Los Angeles County, have you looked at that? I mean, it's obviously the proportionate in Beverly Hills is way higher. But have you found that this is an ongoing thing throughout the municipalities of Los Angeles County?
I think racial profiling takes place throughout the whole country. Beverly Hills just happens to be more overt about it than a lot of places. But it's a big problem all over California and all over the U.S. And we certainly have seen now California has the Racial Identity Profiling Act known as RIPA, and that gives data on the perception of a person stopped by the police, and so they have to give that race. And you'll see that black people are disproportionately pulled over throughout the state of California. But the population that's black in the state is about 6%. Overall, about 15% of the stops are of black people. That's almost 3 times as many as the population. But in Beverly Hills, when you consider that it's 92% that were pulled over during one time frame, and during the whole 2-year time frame is about 37%, to a population of 1.5%, you're talking 16, 17, 18 times more likely for a black person to be pulled over in Beverly Hills than other races. And that's totally unacceptable. It leads, when you have racial profiling and arrests that have no merit, that can lead to people getting angry. Angry people say sometimes stupid things, and police overreact, and that's how you get George Floyd and so many other tragedies that we see. My own case, Robert Brown, it's a new shooting case out of San Bernardino, black man who clearly had no gun on him at the time he got shot and killed. Same with Rob Adams from San Bernardino. The list goes on. And we need cases like this in public awareness through KPFK so that folks understand what's happening and we can make reforms and protect people's lives.
So what's the status of where you're at right now?
The class action, the certification motion is due in October, so we're actively preparing our portion of it, then it goes to the defense. We've taken all the depositions in this case, pretty much over 30 depositions of police officers, police chiefs, and some of the victims.
You talked about RIPA, that was an acronym. Say what that meant again.
It's the Racial Identity Profiling Act. It started in 2015, and it was set out by the state of California to help address issues of racial profiling. And so they take statistics from every city and municipality and compare the population in that city with the number of arrests and the percentage. So then they come up with a formula that tells you how many more percent likely it is for a black person than a white person to get pulled over by the police. And Beverly Hills is at the very top of that.
So that's a green book. I mean, it's really not solving any problem. It's a study saying, oh yeah, this city's racially profiles more than that city. So, I mean, we've seen this even around, you said it came out in 2015?
2015 is when it came out, but the implementation of it took phases. So really 2022 is when all of the cities in California had a report, and that came out 2 years later in the 2024 RIPA report. So it's a bit delayed, But what we can do as attorneys that are doing civil rights, we can go after those cities on behalf of the victims and try to right that wrong. And the only way cities really listen is with money. So, we're looking at $100 million out of Beverly Hills as a way to resolve that case. Because if you don't make it sting enough, then it doesn't stop it.
Yeah, but you're looking at Beverly Hills. I don't know if 100 million is going to make a dent in some of those property owners. Just saying.
Well, we have 2 lawsuits.
But it's interesting enough, 2015 was when RIPA came out. I think it was 2016 when the FBI came out with their thing called Black Identity Extremist.
Interesting.
Yes, they came out with that was the highest, what would you call it, threat to the United States, Black Identity Extreme, which means what?
I have no idea.
It means profiling, is what it means. Let's cut to the chase. It means profiling. So they finally got rid of it. I mean, there was hearings in Congress with, I think Barbara Lee Eden was quite upset about that. But so we do have this report, which actually it seems to me this could help you in your litigation.
Definitely.
And Ben Crump, you say, is a part of this. Well, what's the connection there?
Well, Ben and I do a number of civil rights cases together, and he's probably the most well-known civil rights lawyer right now in the U.S.
How does he get all the cases? Like, call Ben.
Well, is
he winning?
He's in the media a lot, and we certainly together have won all of our cases.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a very humble, nice guy on top of it all.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, he works hard. We work hard together. I work hard, and as we get results for clients, the word spreads, and that's how more and more cases come to him and to me.
Because I guess your record determines the cases you get. That's what I'm assuming.
Definitely. Success breeds success, and once people know who you are and they hear about a similar case to theirs, they go, oh, this is a lawyer that might be able to help me.
I want to take a short break here because this is KPFK Los Angeles, and we are a listener-sponsored radio station, and I want you to call in and subscribe to the station as little as $25 a month. I'm sorry, $25 a year. A year, that's nothing. You can give us $25,000 if you want, if you haven't. I mean, you should. You really should, because right now we're in Glendale, California. We were on 20. Oh, don't tell me I forgot it. Cahuenga Boulevard. I know it by heart. Don't tell me. It's tell me. 2258. Cahuenga Boulevard West. That's seared in my mind. We were there for so long, and now I want to play a clip from you because KPFK, and you dealt with this. I want your comments after we play this clip. KPFK, I believe, was in 1974. Was the FBI came to that station, 2739 Cahuenga Boulevard West, and they told the manager to hand over some tapes that the Symbionese Liberation Army had given them, because the manager at that time refused to do so. He said, no, freedom of speech. And we look at what's happening now with journalists and the death of journalism, and there's no more journalism, but that's another story. That's another program. But we're going to play, this was at KPFK's we would have been in these studios today, but we had to move because this building is trying to get sold. So we're here temporarily, then we're going to go back there. Maybe we could have one of those angel donors say, hey, we'll buy it and donate it back to you. Really, seriously. Anybody in Beverly Hills, come on. You need a write-off. This could be a write-off. 818-985-5735 is the number to call to donate, and hit option 2. Terry Guy is waiting. If not, just $25. This is serious, y'all. These folks were serious. I'm going to play this, and then I want this is what happened at that station right there in North Hollywood a few decades back. I think this is the 50th year anniversary. And let's talk about how things have changed. But here it is. Hit it. And you're listening.
The radio station received an anonymous call stating, in effect, that the SLA had communicated is being held behind a mattress.
You're holding a special news conference today because KPFK has received a tape allegedly from members of the Symbionese Liberation Army. In order to establish the events leading up to the receiving of that tape, I'd
Okay, we're going to get back to that probably. So those are the tapes that were given to KPFK Los Angeles back in the day. And the station was basically invaded by the FBI. They said, okay, we want these tapes. And the manager at that time, Will Lewis, said, no, I'm not going to give them up. And so I think he was jailed shortly. But he said he's not a martyr. He did not want to, serve a long sentence. If the Supreme Court was going to overthrow it, he was going to. I don't know. I don't want to go there. But that's listener-sponsored radio. So they gave the tapes to KPFK and KPFA. Now in the studio is Bradley Gage. He had a different part of this, but bring it up to date. You did not represent any of the underground. I think they're all out of jail now. There was an attack on their facilities. Many of them were murdered, just as the gentleman said, Tico, that many of the black leaders were assassinated or killed or indicted, as we see going on today. A lot of people are indicted. Last week, if you didn't hear, cut to the chase, go to the kpfk.org archives. You can hear us have the interview with Omali Eshateli. He's on trial now for not any armed thing, but just some bogus charges. But you actually represented police in this. Tell us, give us your story, your side.
Sure. So the SLA came about around 1974, and I was just a little kid back then. But afterwards, there was one member that was on the lam for a long time, allegedly, by the name of Kathy Salaya. And she was being prosecuted for putting a pipe bomb underneath the car of police officer James Bryan. So the police union asked me to come in to protect his rights to privacy in his personnel files that Kathy Salaya's lawyers were trying to get. So I participated in that, and I participated in certain motions. Former DA Garcetti was involved, Patty Hearst was involved, and I actually went up against my law school professor on one of the motions. And
How did that feel?
it felt great because I kicked his butt. But so we had that, and then one of the lawyers was accused of putting my client's home address out in the public in radical publications, and a person supposedly came to my client's home to kill him. And one of his neighbors saw it and pulled out a shotgun and persuaded the man that was a bad idea. But as things continued to go towards Officer Bryan from this, the pressure became too great, and he actually committed suicide. And that was the end of my involvement on that case.
So you're an attorney, so your client is who you represent.
Correct.
That's basically it. This is getting interesting. So I remember another case. It was the Inglewood Police Department. I remember it explicitly because at the time my son was 16 and they hit this young black boy against the car. Boom. I said, oh my God, that could be my son. Long story short, later on that police was exonerated and actually got a multi-million-dollar compensation from the city of Inglewood because of, similar to what your client, because, I guess putting his name out there, character, you're an attorney, what would you call it, character assassination?
Well, character assassination, but probably what happened was a claim of defamation or a violation of Penal Code 832.7, which you see Diana Turan is on trial for, or coming up for trial now on charges. There are protections for privacy rights of peace officers in the Penal Code, and you have to follow the right procedures to get that information. That's why a lot of groups are against it, because they think it's a way of covering up wrongdoing, and that the public has a right to know and a need to know so that bad officers can be taken off the force, and then also good officers can show they're good officers. So we end up changing the culture of the department for the betterment of all, where good officers get rewarded, bad officers get eliminated from the department, which I think helps public safety and police officers.
Right. Well, you know, you're an attorney. People say don't trust politicians and attorney. Have you heard that phrase?
You know, the attorneys that do civil rights work, like Ben Crump and myself, I think we,
Well, we
Yeah.
need attorneys. We need attorneys. We know that. That's just a
Yes.
phrase people say.
yeah, we're the only group that can bring awareness to this
Mhm.
and make change other than politicians. And the problem with politicians is it is politics, and you've got such polarization between Republicans and Democrats, not much gets done. So we are the only group out there, and there's not many of us, that can help to bring about change and protect the community.
818-985-5735 is the number to call and subscribe. We just hope that you, $25 a year, and you can become a voter on KPFK. $50, $70, whatever you can. We need you to call in right now. Hit option 2 to go on the air live and to talk with Attorney Bradley. Is 818, same number, 818-985-5735. Hit option 1. We may or may not take calls. But I want to go back to this tape, because KPFK is such an important part of this community, and without you, we won't exist. We already lost our building, the iconic building that the FBI, so they came in and they said, oh, give us the tapes. And the manager at the time, Will Lewis, said, no, I'm not going to do this. Remember, Julian Assange just got out of jail. If you don't know who he is, he was a journalist. He published some stuff in WikiLeaks, and he was incarcerated for, I think, 13 years. We see the students right now peacefully protesting, and they're getting their heads beat in. Now, these folks took a different view. They said, okay, you know, we're going to have to fight fire with fire. So they did pick up arms, and here's what they're saying. Okay, that's just a short clip, and you probably can get that, I'm sure, on, you can purchase it on the Pacifica Air Archives. We don't have that, but we're hoping that you, on your honor, you just call in and give us the money. It's really important, because we broadcast on this station voices that are not heard anywhere else. I hadn't heard Bradley talk until I heard him on a different venue station. And here on KPFK, you hear voices like Sekou Odinga, who I interviewed. I went to his apartment and interviewed him. He just became an ancestor. He was incarcerated for 37 years. He broke out Assata Shakur, who's now living free in Cuba, and on and on and on. You heard many voices here. With Geronimo Pratt, went into San Quentin, and the authorities knew. They knew that he did not commit those murders in Santa Monica, and he had a great attorney that I interview often, and pro bono attorney, and he finally got out. So we would like you to call to keep this information going that you will not hear on, I call it commercial radio. It's not mainstream, it's commercial. Matter of fact, I think I was reading somewhere when Patty Hearst finally got out, that was during the Reagan administration. From my knowledge was she did serve some jail time, but her father, the Hearst, which is a big newspaper corporation, billionaires, one of the few billionaires. Back then there weren't too many billionaires, but the Hearst family were billionaires. So he was able to persuade, I think it was Governor or President, who came after Reagan?
Clinton.
No, not before Clinton. The Peanut Man.
He just died.
Did he?
I think so.
Really? No.
He was 99.
Really? Anyway,
Carter, Jimmy Carter.
very good. Attorneys have good minds. They have to memorize all those law books.
I know him because
Not to-
he boycotted the
Did he
1980
just
Olympics.
pass? Right. Which, then I was really into the Olympics. I said, oh, no. Right. But so because of the pressure by the Hearst, the pressure by the money talks and BS walks. So that's why we need you to call in and subscribe to KPFK. So we could have people like Bradley Gage. He's going to, in 1 second, talk about his notorious BIG thing. But then there's this thing called qualified immunity. Your thoughts on that?
Well, qualified immunity now basically says that if a person is killed by a police officer, they don't have a federal civil rights claim anymore because qualified immunity wipes out virtually everything. So it eliminates accountability, it eliminates transparency. Proponents for it say, well, gee, we want to protect the police. But the police in most places, such as in California, are supposed to be protected by the city representing them in any lawsuit and paying any of the damages that come from it other than punitive damages, which are discretionary. And basically, all departments do it, except San Bernardino Police Department is not doing it right now for one of my clients who we're representing. He brought suit against them for discrimination. He is gay and also over 40, and he was a whistleblower. And then he ended up getting sued in the middle of his litigation on a bogus case, and the city is not protecting him as required by law. But that's kind of what qualified immunity is supposed to do, is to protect officers. The problem with it is victims are not being protected properly. And so I think for public safety, we really need to have qualified immunity eliminated. But with Trump as the president, he stacked the Supreme Court with conservatives that are against qualified immunity. And the only hope we really have, I think, is if Kamala gets elected and is able to appoint several Supreme Court justices that would get rid of that travesty.
Well, yeah, the duopoly, or, by the way, just a quick note, KPFK is going to be broadcasting a presidential debate of the alternative candidates. And also the Republicans and Democrats were invited. This is going to take place September 18th, which is a Wednesday, from 5 to 7 o'clock. So it's more than a duopoly, but I think the duopoly controls everything because of money, I would say, and because the media doesn't tell you what to think, it tells you what to think about. So the media tells you that there's only two candidates. That's what there's only two. Which one will win? And unfortunately, because of the control of big money, that's where it is, but that all has to change. Like you said, the Supreme Court appointments, I actually advocate for a new constitution, U.S. Constitution, because it's old and it's crusty. It was created by pedophiles, slaveholders, so it has to be changed. That's just my opinion. I mean, am I lying?
Well, certainly there were slaveholders, no question about that.
Well, rapists.
There were bad men that ended up doing a good thing.
Yeah, well, they did. The Constitution, I mean, there's parts of everything that you can take out.
You know, the Constitution was a good thing, but it also was a bad thing because it did not give rights to black people, Native Americans, or women. It was a starting point, and certainly we've had to change that over the years to help fight for equality. And anyone who thinks everything is equal hasn't been paying attention still.
Really? Well, there's a lot of not paying attention, that's true. But that's a whole nother cut to the chase program.
Well, that's
But,
what
'cause
our,
everything needs to be tweaked. As time goes, things change.
right.
And so everything has to be tweaked. I'm not saying throw it out, I'm saying, tweak it so what the reality is now. And if you have to look at who created it to understand some things and why they created it.
But the Constitution gets tweaked ultimately by the U.S. Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
And the U.S. Supreme Court is selected by the person who is president. So for those folks that don't want to vote, thinking it doesn't make sense, they have to realize how important their vote is, because whoever is president selects the Supreme Court, and it's that Supreme Court that will say Project 2025 is A-OK, who will say abortion should not be legal, getting rid of Roe versus Wade, eliminating the rights, especially of black people, to have equality and fair treatment by the police. So voting is the one legal way for us to make an impact and a change, and it's not just the president, but also the Supreme Court.
Here, 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 here. And I think they're trying to tweak the Supreme Court too, so it's not lifetime appointment, since, you could have one party that appoints all these people. You see what happens.
Yeah.
818, I'm going to take just a little bit out to really urge, we want 10 people to call in and subscribe to this station. 10 people, $25, $50, $75. 10 people calling 818-985-5735. I just saw Terry Guy. That means he's not answering any phones. That means nobody's not calling. So we need you to call and say, hey, the stuff you've heard, I mean, if you listen to Kate, there's a lot of information on this station that I hadn't heard anywhere else. It's a library of alternative information. We have Attorney Bradley Gage sitting here with us, telling his story, telling us about his involvement in the taking the covers off of the Beverly Hills Police, the work he's doing with Ben Crump. And you're also working 818-985-5735. Hit option 2 to subscribe right now if you haven't done it. Who said it? They said if you're not a part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So money is controlling everything, and we do need money. We're here in these studios. We should be over at 3729 Cahuenga Boulevard West. But because the internet is so powerful right now, it's sort of, radio took a hit off the internet. It took a big hit off the internet. And because everything's now on demand. But we're here. The difference is that you're not watched. Nobody knows if you're listening. You're not an algorithm. And the government, I mean, we have our transmitter still on Mount Wilson, so we need, and it costs a lot of money to run that bad boy. So we need you to call. I'm looking for 10 people. And Terry, if you're there, let me know if we got 0, 1, 2, or 10 calls, because I really want to do this. You're also, you told me you have a Notorious B.I.G. What's going on with that? What's your involvement?
Well, we'll get to that in a second, but I do want to talk about how important KPFK is, because when I was representing Rob Adams, who was shot and killed in San Bernardino, shot in the back multiple times, KPFK ran stories about other police shootings in San Bernardino, and they were in the forefront of that, which helped us to get justice for the family and to demonstrate how there was this widespread deliberate indifference to the safety, particularly of black people in San Bernardino, from being shot. So KPFK does help promote public safety, and that's a personal experience I had prior, which you didn't even know about.
Here.
So good reason to donate. But as far as Notorious B.I.G., I had that case many years ago, and we sued the city of Los Angeles because our claim was that police officers, including Rafael Perez, who was from the Rampart scandal, were involved in the murder of Christopher Wallace, better known as Notorious B.I.G. or Biggie Smalls. And it was allegedly a revenge murder for the death of Tupac. But as part of our claims, we brought up how there was a bank robbery from the Bank of America of over $700,000 taken, which another LAPD officer, David Mack, got convicted of. And the allegation was that this money then got laundered through Death Row Records in order to make it clean, and that the payback of it was to have the killing of Christopher Wallace. So those were the theories. We went to trial on it. Then during trial, I was able to show that documents were concealed from us, witnesses were hidden from us, and evidence was not turned over, all of which is required. The judge, she ordered a mistrial, and the city had to pay us $1.1 million in sanctions for the concealment. Then, as the case was getting ready to come back to trial, different witnesses started dying.
Yeah.
So the case wound up not getting tried again. It did get put into a book, City of Lies, and there was a movie that came out about the beginning of that case with Johnny Depp and Forrest Whitaker.
Let me recap, because this is very, people talk about this east-west divide. So I just wish I could just rewind that.
Well, you had Death Row Records and you had Bad Boy.
And Suge Knight still in jail, right?
Yeah.
I know a friend, he said, yeah, he was a gangster. He was, from what I hear. But anyway, go ahead.
So you had the stuff with Suge Knight on the one hand and with Puff Daddy on the other, Sean Combs. So, and you had Tupac and you had Biggie Smalls, who were the two biggest rap stars of the time. And they both wound up being killed. So we got brought in by the family of Christopher Wallace. And initially they had other lawyers
No,
on
who's
the case.
Christopher Wallace?
Christopher Wallace is the name, the real name of Notorious B.I.G.
Okay, gotcha.
Or Biggie Smalls. So anyway, different lawyers start the case, and because of my going after the police department so many times, I got brought in to assist to the trial. I was the one that found the hidden evidence, and then all hell broke loose.
So, and they never really got to go to trial. Is that what you did?
Correct. It wound up going into a movie and a book, but not into a trial, which to me is very disappointing. But when witnesses die and a lawyer is left bludgeoned, believed to be dead,
You sort of back away.
sometimes you have to fight a different day.
At the beginning, did you say somebody was convicted? One of the police was convicted?
Yes, so the allegation is that David Mack was convicted and spent many years in prison for bank robbery of Bank of America.
This was out of the what division?
I can't remember the division
Okay.
at this point,
'Cause I know there was a really,
Rafael Perez was at Rampart. And
Rampart,
he
yeah.
was the one who did the whole Rampart scandal. And I was involved in that case too. I had a number of individuals that got wrongfully prosecuted and convicted based on the stuff that was being brought out that led to the Rampart scandal.
Okay, as we're running out of time, this is Cut to the Chase. 818-985-5735 is the number to call if you want to talk to our guest today, Bradley Gage, who's an attorney, and you've heard him talk about a lot of things. You represented victims, you police, citizens, both sides. So you're well-rounded, I guess I would say.
I've represented police officers that ended up going against their department, but
Okay, so there you go. That's
the fact that I have done so much police work helps to get to the truth of the matter and helps to protect everybody, I think. So it's quite helpful.
Bradley, tell me your position on police reform. I know there's a lot of people who say defund the police, and that they're not talking about stop the ability for a community to be safe. They're just looking at the possibility of making a different way to keep your community safe. For instance, like that picture you showed me where they're shooting at a picture of a black man. So do you have any thoughts about police reform?
Well, I think even a blind man can see that we need police reform. The question is, how do you do it? A couple of things that I think would help would be to have transparency in police records and demonstrate those officers that engage in wrongdoing. They now have a new Senate bill where bad officers can get fired. But the problem that we're seeing happen is police departments are using that as a weapon to go after whistleblowers. So when police officers are doing the right thing and they're whistleblowing against bad officers, that's where we've come in to protect those officers, because that helps the community. Often they're retaliated against after they've blown the whistle on excessive force, unjustified shootings, things of that sort, which is all part of police reform. Then the departments bring false claims against those whistleblowing officers, accuse them of dishonesty to try to take away their right to ever be a cop again. And so the reform that we're trying to get, which is a great starting point, is now being used against the very officers that are doing the right thing to help protect the community. So we need to tweak that a bit to protect those.
Then I hear it's the culture, which is part of it. What you're saying is part of the culture, whereas you're schooling on us, and even looking at the training where they have pictures of. So it's a little bit layered.
We are representing, I think, 7 officers from Pasadena Police Department, all people of color. Most of them are African American. And that case started when Tyson Crutchfield, who happens to also be Miss Oregon running for Miss USA, she stopped a police officer that she thought was engaging in unnecessary violence towards a juvenile boy. And then the department went after her. When we took care of her because she was protecting a young black man from getting injured needlessly, others who had also been whistleblowers in the department and treated differently because of their race came forward. So now we have 7. So now we have 7 different officers of color going after the Pasadena Police Department.
Interesting. So, wow. 818-985-5735. We are, does that say 1 minute? 1 minute left?
Time flies when you're having fun.
I know. So, Gwen, we need to see if we got anybody subscribe. We need people to subscribe to the station. 818, you can go and ask Terry. 985-5735 to call. Maybe we could just play just a small, maybe a minute of that clip that you paused, and we'll be right back with your closing comments, your ideas, your hopes, your fears, and all that other great stuff. So those were comments by the Symbionese Liberation Army back in the day. Of course, we had on this program, not this particular program, another program I did, Bill Ayers, who was part of the Weather Underground. He's in Chicago now, and he was recently on Democracy Now! And they just decided that they wanted to up the game because they used armed struggle. So they then were called the terrorists, but now you see what's happening worldwide. People with no arms being just slaughtered. So that's why the opening song, who are the real terrorists? When people have no guns and you're just bombing them, you're just shooting them down in the street. So that's why we played Willie King, Terrorism. And then you have the unarmed students peacefully protesting something and getting their heads beat in. And, I've known many attorneys. Y'all do great work, I have to say, because if it wasn't for you, a lot of people we've had attorneys on this program because they represent the disenfranchised. They represent those who are publicly being told are the, what do we call them, terrorists. Nelson Mandela, I think he's still on the U.S. terrorist list. There was no justice for many of those Panthers who were murdered. Anyway, excuse me for ranting, but
I went to see where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned in Riker Island. It's pretty sad.
yeah, and he's still on he was dubbed a terrorist. I don't think he's been taken off yet. That's Bradley, the voice of Bradley Gage. Wrapping up any of your cases, your observations, what's going on now, what's your solution, or talk to me.
Well, I think in the area of civil rights, the only way that we get reform is through lawyers seeking justice for victims and juries or judges giving multi-million-dollar, $100 million awards against these cities that are allowing officers to violate civil rights and that are killing needlessly innocent people and targeting people simply because of the color of their skin. Once you get enough of those kinds of results, people will listen because money talks. And that, I think, is important. Certainly, having Kamala Harris elected, changing the Supreme Court, changing qualified immunity so that people are held accountable is quite vital. And we're here representing at Brad Gage Law, APC, the victims of civil rights and employment discrimination to try to right the wrongs and bring public awareness to what's happening, because black people are slaughtered daily in the United States without justification, usually, and only a few of them ever get into the news to raise public awareness. So the more that we can raise public awareness, the safer things will be. Videotapes certainly help to show what happens, and we should require body-worn cameras on police officers at all times, and also dash cams on the police cars with good, clear audio and video, with preservation of that indefinitely, so that when an officer is accused of wrongdoing in the future, you get to go after them for their past things. Like we have now with Niani Finlayson, who was shot and killed allegedly by Ty Shelton, the sheriff's deputy, who we also went after previously for killing Michael Williams. Both of them are very questionable shootings.
Wow. So you mentioned Kamala Harris. Is she, we don't know, actually, I don't know if she's in favor or against qualified immunity. I know Pinocchio is, but I'm not sure if she is. So the question is, people are saying we need to put pressure on Kamala to give her a true platform that represents the people rather than business as usual.
Well, I think she is the best hope that we have in this election for future change and progress. She was a prosecutor, but there's ways of changing qualified immunity that will make it a lot fairer for all concerned.
You got her direct number? Can you do some calls, make some calls for
I
us?
don't, but I actually know someone who does. And believe me, he is working on it.
Yeah, because we do have a list of policy agenda that, because people, all these organizations came together and they said, "God," which is good. It was it's very powerful, but we don't need a blank check. Okay, this is what we expect. And I don't know if it's been done, it's being done, but I don't know the extent that it's being done, and I don't know. So we have 1 minute left. Oh, less than a minute. This is KPFK Los Angeles. Our guest has been Bradley Gage. Any last 30 seconds closing out?
Well, if you ever want to contact me, you can contact me, brad@bradgagelaw.com. You can follow me on my Instagram @AttorneyGage, and also another Instagram @BradGageLaw.
Okay, 818-985-5735. Can we get some people to call and subscribe to this station, to this program, to this cause, to our guest who came in, took his time out? Go ahead.
I want to thank you for having me here and urge folks to subscribe and donate, because I've seen the positive way that KPFK has helped to protect victims. Even you don't know about it, but it comes out in litigation. The information on this does help to protect the community that they don't get elsewhere.
With that, we'll say voila, and you can hit that intro as the outro, and we're out of here. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
It was a pleasure being here.
Okay.
Oh, that was fun.
You liked it?
Yeah.
Was that what you expected?
Pretty much,
Okay.
I'm used to just getting questions and responding to it anyway. When I was younger, I used to do all this prep for it, and then I started doing stuff with Ben, and the first time I'm doing something, I'm like an hour and a half early to get ready with him. He's talking on the phone, he's talking about everything else. I go, what are we going to do, He said, you just give the facts, I'll give the color commentary on it. And that was it. It's like, it worked really well. After that, I never do any prep with them anymore.
I used to do, I sort of prep, but I don't prep. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Back when I was doing it, I'd have all my questions, and I list the questions. I have some things I'm going to try to remember to talk about, but it's, I try to like to feel, okay, how do I do this? Let me get this stuff out.
Yeah, if you could send me the Zoom.
Yeah, I will,
That would
yeah,
be great.
text me all your information, and I'll have them,
Yeah, so,
I'm gonna look at it.
I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to stop that.
And I want to have this too.
He wanted you to say that somebody is not died. No, y'all said somebody died on the radio.
Oh, it was probably Carter.